Hello everyone, welcome back to KXAN Live. Thanks for joining us. I'm your anchor Esmeralda Zamora, and the polls have just closed here in Texas. So far, we're going to be waiting for those votes, for those results to trickle in throughout the next 2 hours. We list of guests and experts that we're going to be speaking with. And to do all of this with me is our KXAN anchor, Will Dupree. Will, thanks for joining me. How are you doing?
Doing very well. I will live for an election night. This is my Super Bowl, so I'm very excited to be here. As you just mentioned, the polls closed about a minute ago here in Texas, which is very exciting. If you got in line right at 7, stay there. You can still go and cast your ballot, so we want your voice to be heard for sure. But if you're joining us for this 2-hour ride that we have on our live stream, just know that we will be checking in with a number of different races across Texas and in the U.S., frankly. We will have updated results coming in here relatively soon. So if you're waiting for a certain race, just wait a little bit longer. We will have those results for you in just a little bit. But I'm very excited to be here and to share and talk to some of our guests and highlight some of these results that'll be coming in too.
Yes, Will, and some of the major races that we are focusing on as a team here at KXAN is the presidential race, the Texas Senate race, the Austin mayoral race, Council Districts 2, 4, 6, 7, and 10, Travis County District Attorney, Bastrop Prop M, and Lockhart Prop A. But like you mentioned, we do have a lot of races that we are covering. One of those big races is the Texas Senate race. Now, these numbers that you see on our screen are probably not updated quite yet, Will, but they're going to be working on this, right?
Yeah, so again, just because the polls close here relatively soon, we will have numbers start coming in from a bunch of different sources, including the state of Texas. This graphic will be populated with those results once that happens. As you saw just a few moments ago when this first popped up, we were still at 0%. And don't worry about Ted Cruz will also pop in there here in just a few minutes once those numbers start coming in. That was just kind of our template for these results. But yeah, we are checking in with lots of different reporters across the state. Many of our team members here at KXAN are fanned out at different watch parties and polling locations and different things like that. And our first guest up tonight is Ryan Chandler. Esme?
Yes, Ryan Chandler, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about where you are and what is happening around you. Thank you, Ryan. It's a little hard to hear you. I know there's a lot of music in the background, but we got what we could from what you said. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to give it to Will to see if he has any questions for you.
Yeah, Ryan, before we kind of dip out and check in with some of our other team members across the state, I'm wondering if you could kind of set the scene for us, what it would mean if Ted Cruz won re-election for a third term, what that would mean possibly for the makeup of the Senate and the direction where that body could go.
Message in these final days of the campaign has been on a bus to remind he's hoping that this message about the economy and immigration and border security is going to be enough to increase Republican turnout in rural areas where he needs to make up the gap, knowing that these places like Harris County are increasingly Democratic. If you listen to him, his closing message is very similar to what you may hear from President Trump about an immediate crackdown on the Texas border and a protection of Texas energy, lifting regulations on energy jobs, of course, in Texas. So he's making a very pragmatic economic argument, and could not contradict with his Democratic challenger Colin Allred, who's very focused on his top issue, his social issue, of course, of abortion. So I'm sure we'll hear from him.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us and sharing these words with us. Thanks for joining us. We'll keep track of your race later on throughout this stream, and we hope you are too where you are in Houston. Thank you.
Yeah, good to hear from Brian too, and I know that there is a lot of excitement in that particular race. We're tracking this, whether or not incumbent Ted Cruz can hang on to his Senate seat and fend off the challenger Democratic Congressman Colin Allred. Esme, if you don't mind, let's maybe check in with those results and see if there is any new numbers that have been populated into that. And
there
you
they
go.
are.
Yeah, so this looks like maybe some of the early vote has been coming in now. So we have updated results at this time. This is very early. We should highlight that and underscore it because we will see these results change over time. But at the moment, you can see Democratic Congressman Colin Allred leading at this time over incumbent Senator Ted Cruz. These results will change, as I just mentioned, and so we'll look at that coming up in just a few moments. Now, we want to come back here to Austin because there are a number of races that are top of mind for a lot of people, including some that are happening at Austin City Hall. And for that, we are welcoming in here to our conversation KXAN's own evening anchor, Jennifer Sanders, who is making her KXAN Live debut. Jen, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you both. And first of all, I have to say, wow, what an operation they have in here. They are juggling so much. So kudos, props to both of you all. Thank you again for having me. And Will, I'll just dive right in because we have a lot that we have to talk about, right? 5 Austin City Council seats are up for grabs. So here's what we're tracking: 2, 4, 6, 7, and 10. Those are the districts we're looking at now. Again, the polls closed at 7, so we're still waiting for those results to come in. The latest results will be at KXAN.com. We're keeping a close eye on districts 2, 4, and 6. They have incumbents running. And just for a little context here, incumbents in city and council races typically have won and they've gotten reelected. Keeping a close eye also on District 6 because Council Member Mackenzie Kelly, who currently holds that seat, as we know, she's the most conservative member on the City Council. So if there's any type of power switch here, that could really have a big impact on how the council votes on city measures moving forward. Okay, let's start with District 2. We have a lot to get to, so let's start with District 2, Will, in Austin. There are 2 people running for Austin City Council District 2, and let's start with the incumbent. That's Vanessa Fuentes. She currently obviously holds the seat. According to her campaign, she has led on issues including raising the minimum wage to $20 for city workers, expanding paid parental leave to 12 weeks for city workers, and expanding access to full pre-K in Del Valle ISD. Candidate number 2, that's Robert Reynolds, as you see on your screen there. He filed to challenge Fuentes on July 29th. His application for a place on the ballot says he is an instructor. It doesn't appear that he has a campaign website, so we don't know a lot about him and his policies or his experience, but those are the 2 candidates for Austin City Council District 2. All right, let's head to District 4 right now, and there are 5 people running in that district, including Jose Chito Vela. He's the incumbent for that district right there. So we'll start with Lewis Herron. Herron filed on August 18th, the day of the deadline to run for this seat. It says, according to his campaign website, his top priorities are public safety and, quote, homeless camping. Then we have Monica Guzman. Guzman works for Go Austin, Vamos Austin, also known as GABA. She's a regular at Austin City Council members. I've interviewed her many times, and she speaks a lot about really affordability and gentrification. Then we have Eduardo Romero. Romero also filed at the deadline, and he lists his occupation as university staff on his campaign documents. Then we have the incumbent, Jose Vela, and he is looking obviously to remain in that seat. He lists his priorities for the council members campaign, looking into housing, in the environment, public safety, and transportation. And then lastly, we have Jim Robach, and he was a last-minute filer as well. A campaign website doesn't appear to be listed for him. He did list his occupation on application documents as a federal employee. Okay, Will.
Yes, and I'll point out District 4 if you're wondering maybe where that is, because sometimes the numbers get thrown out up there.
Yes.
So that is North and Central Austin, just to lay on the map there.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we did during our 5 p.m. newscast. We put a map on the screen to show voters, okay, this is where those districts are, because it is, again, a lot to keep up to. Okay, so District 7, let's go there. We do have a packed house for District 7. We have 6 candidates running. Because of this, again, for a little context here, we do expect a runoff since candidates do need 50% of the vote. Let's get to those candidates now. They're looking to fill Leslie Poole's seat, representing primarily Northwest and North Austin. So, Gary Bledsoe. Bledsoe is an attorney and has been the president of the Texas National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, since 1991, according to the NAACP. And he lists his main priorities as civil rights, affordable housing, climate change, and public safety. Then we have candidate 2, Pierre Nguyen, and he's a firefighter, an EMT in Travis County, working as the health and safety director for the nonprofit, which we've covered here a lot, American Youth Works. Then we have candidate 3, Todd Shaw. Shaw was the chair of Austin's Planning Commission. This was back in 2020. That's according to the biography on his campaign website. We have Edwin Batista. Batista graduated from the University of Texas in 2020. And something I want to point out is what he says: as a member of Generation Z, I bring fresh perspectives and ideas to the table. We have candidate 5, Mike Siegel, formerly the City of Austin's assistant city attorney. So he has a background in public education, also in nonprofit and legal work. And then we have candidate 6, Adam Powell. Formerly, he's done work as a union organizer, a recruiter in education, and a tech executive. Whew, okay, so now,
Quite the mouthful. And you pointed out there that this race, because there are so 6 in total for District 7, that is where it could be a little more likely that we could go into a runoff scenario, because in the City of Austin races, they have to reach 50% plus one. They have to get over that 50% threshold to avoid a runoff. So that will be one definitely to watch very closely this evening.
It will. You're absolutely right, Will. And then we'll get to District 10 right now. So Council Member Allison Alter, as we know, has reached the end of her 2 consecutive terms and will leave that vacant spot. So eyeing this seat, Mark Duchin, and he's said that he's been active in neighborhood policy for the better part of about a decade, starting with volunteering for the Homeowners Association. That's according to his campaign website. Candidate number 2 in this race is Ashika Gangley, and she most recently served as a legislative director for Representative John Busey and has a master's degree in public policy, according to her website. So only 2 candidates. In this, again, they are looking to fill Councilmember Allison Alter's seat, which she has reached the end of her 2 consecutive terms and will leave City Council. So a lot of races to watch. Our Bree Hollis, she is going from district to district, going to all of these watch parties and talking to the candidates to see what they're feeling, see what the environment is around them, talking to voters as well. And they'll be giving us a full report, of course, on 9 and 10. And they're tweeting as well, Nick, and they're also posting on Facebook just to give us those quick updates before our newscast.
Yeah, we will check in with Brianna Hollis in our next hour. So
Yes.
everybody who is watching our live stream, we'll get an update about some of those city council seats. But for the moment, we want to say thank you so much to Jennifer Sanders. She is headed out. Thank you again for coming in this evening.
Thank you so
you,
much,
Jen. That was
and awesome
amazing.
job, you all. Thank you.
Yeah.
And now we have our reporter coming to us from he is our reporter for all things government, and this is Rashad Hudson. I believe he's ready for us, so let's go ahead and see if he is here and ready to speak with us and share where he's coming to us from. Rashad, can you hear us?
Looks like we might have some connectivity issues. Again, this is just the nature of live news here and our election coverage. Let's go ahead and pull down his shot for us, Esme, because I'm not sure.
Are we connected to KXAN?
Yes, he's not dialed in fully for us, so we will just hold on for a little bit longer while we try to rework and get him back into our conversation. While we're waiting for that, let's pay attention to this election result update from voters here in Texas. When we're looking just at the U.S. presidential contest for Texans who are voting on this, right now at the moment, with only 11% of the ballots in, we have Vice President Kamala Harris holding a very narrow lead over former President Donald Trump. Again, and you just see it updated again as more results come in. Former President Trump slid into that first position, with Vice President Kamala Harris sliding into second right now. Still a narrow margin between the two, but we are still very early days in these numbers coming in. So again, we will check in on those results in just a moment. We want to advance, though, and show you what's happening in the U.S. Senate contest here in Texas. This is one that is very closely watched. And as these early numbers are trickling in for us, you can see that Democratic Congressman Colin Allred is currently holding a narrow lead over incumbent Senator Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, of course, is the Republican who's held this seat for the last 2 terms. He's hoping to win a 3rd term. And this is a very close contest, perhaps the closest we're seeing here in the statewide, based on the polls that came out before this election. That put Ted Cruz leading over Colin Allred, maybe somewhere between 3 to 5, even 7 points in some polls. So again, the very closest contest, but with these early numbers coming in right now, Colin Allred has a narrow lead at this time. We're only 7:18 into our evening. So again, we'll check in with those results in just a little bit. Additionally, we want to advance and show you what's happening in the Austin mayoral race. That's something really big happening here in our community, and there are 5 candidates running for this race. The incumbent, Kirk Watson, is currently leading at this time. You can see that the share of votes there with Tova, the former city council member, in second place at the moment. Jeffrey Bowen in third, with Carmen Yanez Polito in fourth, and Doug Greco in fifth. Again, what we are watching as these results are coming in is whether or not any of these candidates can get above 50%. That way they could avoid a runoff from happening. Kirk Watson, though, at the moment is leading and seems to be in a comfortable position at this time. We are still very early days in these numbers coming in this evening. So let's go ahead and see if whether these city council seats, who will sit alongside the dais beside the mayor, whether or not any of those results have populated just yet. So this is District 2.
Nothing yet.
Yeah, looks like nothing has come in at this point. District 4.
Same
thing there. The numbers are pretty slow. And,
District 6.
Yeah, looky there. So this is up in Northwest Austin, District 6. The incumbent, Mackenzie Kelly, is currently behind her challenger, Krista Lane, who is a parent and an advocate for the Round Rock Independent School District. She, of course, would like to unseat Mackenzie Kelly, who is seeking her second term on the Austin City Council. And right now she is maintaining a narrow lead there, but that is a very close contest, and still more votes to count for sure this evening. Let's advance to maybe District 7, if you can, for me. Esme?
Doesn't look like we have anything in
right,
yet.
There's no new numbers to show just yet. And then finally, District 10, which is Allison Alter, Councilmember Allison Alter's seat that she is vacating at this time. Looks like no numbers have come in just yet. Esme, as I know we were trying to check on to see whether Rashad Hudson was going to be joining us. Do you know if he is working on that, or if we might bring him back into the conversation?
It looks like we are not going to be able to speak with him on
okay.
this live stream, but we do have a list of other reporters that are ready and are here locally to speak with. But before we move on to them, let's go ahead and look at some of the other races that we were covering. I know you said we were also looking into Travis County Proposition A.
Yes, this is an affordable childcare bond that has been put up for voters at this time. Again, just for Travis County. For those of you who are watching and live in Travis County, you got to vote on this on your ballot when you went into the polling location nearest you. And at this time, there are no new results coming in. So we'll check back in with that one for sure. So let's see what's next.
Austin ISD, no results just yet. And, the polls just closed, so it's going to take us a little longer to get these numbers in. But we can roll with the punches and see what is ready. Let's see, Hays County Sheriff, we have Alex Villalobos and Anthony Hippolito Jr., and there's no numbers for us.
I know that's one that a lot of people down south of Austin here are wanting to keep a close watch on, because this will be a new sheriff, whoever takes it, whether it's Mr. Villalobos or Mr. Hippolito. So we'll check back in with those results coming up in just a moment. But let's see what we have coming up next, Esme.
We have the Hays County Proposition A. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about what this proposition is for? I know it has to do with the road bonds, right?
Yes. So what the Hays County leaders there are wanting to do is to fund some more road improvement projects down in that area, because as we all know, it is incredibly growing at such a fast rate. Let's see. With Prop A, the Commissioner's Court is asking for a bond to be approved by the voters out there. It would allow the county to execute around 30 transportation projects around that area, and it would add about It would add about a little bit to the tax rate there. That would break down to about $80 per year for a home valued at about $400,000. So we'll see whether voters will approve that. Esme, if you want to pop me back up, I want to let you all know that in addition to some of these Texas races, we are following closely what's happening around the country. I know a lot of you are wondering about that too. So let me see what we have right here. Some of our team members here at KXAN have shared that NBC News is projecting a number of states for certain presidential candidates. So first up, they are calling and projecting that former President Trump will win Florida, Tennessee, Missouri, Alabama, and Oklahoma. So those are 5 states that the polls closed not too long ago, and that's what NBC News is projecting. So I wanted to pass that along. On the other side, Vice President Harris, NBC News is projecting that she won Massachusetts, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. Another projection is that former President Trump is the projected winner in South Carolina. So that's the latest updates we've gotten from NBC News. We're tracking those closely, and as we're getting more of those in, we will share them with all you at home.
And Will, we do have another reporter here standing by for us. It is Hannah Brandt. She is ready to speak with us. Let's go ahead and see where she is at and what she's seeing around us. Hannah Brandt, thanks for joining us. Can you tell us, where are you right now?
Hey guys, yep, I'm standing on campus at Howard University. There are supporters here behind me for the Harris campaign watch party. Vice President Kamala Harris herself will be here later tonight, but she did spend the day making some last-minute phone calls to voters at the Democratic National Headquarters today. So everyone really just anxiously awaiting her arrival here at the watch party.
And Hannah, I know that is a very historic place for Kamala Harris. Can you talk about, her activities leading up to today? Because there's been just so many activities for them. But where was she spending her time today before coming to speak to supporters at some point this evening?
Yeah, aside from the visit to the Democratic Party headquarters that she made, we also saw her do radio interviews where she called into radio shows in all 7 battleground states. So her campaign really using every last minute they could before the polls closed to try and get out the vote. She also mentioned in those interviews that she did that she, before heading to Howard, planned to have dinner at home with her family. She mentioned, too, that she's hosting family members this weekend. So certainly sticking together with family on this election night. She said having dinner with them was a tradition for her. So we're expecting her to be doing that before heading here to Howard tonight.
And Hannah, before we let you go, talk about the crowd there. Have you seen many supporters gather and want to be a part of this moment tonight?
Yes, lots of supporters here behind me. You can probably see them over my right shoulder. The place is packed right now, hundreds of people. The Harris campaign tells us they expect about 2,000 people to be here total. A lot of them students and staff of Howard University. So this moment significant for them because there's a sense of pride that one of their own running for president, and they're of course cheering her on here tonight.
Thank you so much for joining us, Hannah. We'll let you get back to all the other reports you got to do. Thanks for joining us.
It's always good to check in with some of that. And we'll point out that we're wanting to bring in her colleague from Nexstar, Rashad Hudson, who was at former President Trump's watch party in West Palm Beach, Florida. Unfortunately, we were unable to get some of the connectivity issues there. So just wanted to let you all know that we were trying to bring that into the conversation here. And we will be checking in with lots of other reporters and guests over the rest of this evening. Esme, if you want to, I know that we've got some other people coming up, hopefully in the next few minutes. And let's bring up some of those results. We were on the Hays County Road Bond, and I wanted to see if that had populated any numbers there.
There we go. There it is.
Yeah, there you go. So this is, again, to hopefully help the county afford some of those road projects that they would like to do to improve conditions around the area south of Austin. At this time, we are pretty close to the full vote count. I mean, not too far from that. And at the moment, you're seeing that 55% of the voters there in Hays County are in support of this measure, while about almost 45% are against it. So we wanted to just update you all if you're joining us from Hays County. Esme, if you don't mind popping up the Hays County Sheriff's race, I'm wondering if those numbers popped in too. So yes, there you go. We have some more numbers in for that. So at the moment, the Republican, Anthony Hippolito Jr., is currently in the lead, while Democrat Alex Villalobos is in second place. These two men both have an extensive amount of law enforcement experience. Hippolito actually works for the Hays County Sheriff's Office as a community officer, while Alex Villalobos had previously worked for the Texas State University's police department. And, we're waiting for the rest of the results to come in, but at the moment you can see the Republican there, Anthony Hippolito Jr., currently in first. So we wanted to get that update on these races there in Hays County. Let's go back, if you don't mind, to the presidential contest, because I saw there were a few more numbers popped into there as well.
Yes, it looks like we have 47.7% with the Harris race, and then we have a 51% with the Trump race so far.
Yeah, so again, we're early into this results for pulling in how Texas is voting in these presidential contests. It is important to note some of the context for this race. We have seen the results for the presidency get narrower and narrower over the last few elections. However, this looks to be a pretty tight race as this is shaping up there. The last time, though, that a Democrat actually won in Texas, Esme, was back in 1976 when Jimmy Carter won the state. So that was 48 years ago. History is usually not on the sides of the Democrats in our state in terms of statewide elections, but we're going to have to see how these results shape up coming up in just a little bit.
Yeah, and so far we see the polls have shown Trump leading in Texas. By far, we can see that on our screen right now, and these are the Texas results, correct?
Yes, these are just for Texas votes, so we are only looking at that with this particular result. And if you want to pop me up again, Esme, I have a little bit of breaking news to pass along for all of you. We are going to see another term from the long-term congressman here in Austin, Lloyd Doggett. We are projecting here at KXAN that he will win another term in Congress representing District 37. That's the latest update from our election team here that is watching these numbers come in very closely tonight, Esme.
Yes, and I think we also got some breaking news or a little bit of an insight, and it sounds like we were hearing rumbles that the Travis County leaders might be announcing or even claiming the DA's race pretty soon. I know we're going to be talking to Avery about that race later in this half hour, so maybe we will talk to her sooner.
Yeah, so we'll look for that too. Do you want to pop those results up to see if
Yes.
any numbers have populated? So, as we are going along this evening, our system is catching up with some of the results. Let's go to the Travis County District Attorney's Office, if you don't mind, because we have yet to see that one.
And that one has not populated just yet, Will.
Yeah, so just stick with us for a little bit longer while those numbers populate into our system, and with 1% on both of them. Wow.
Yes.
Again, only about 38% in at this time, so just about a third of the state with numbers reporting. But Texas is a big place. Every voter in Texas is weighing in on this particular contest, so we've got lots of votes to count there. But, I mean, this is, it doesn't get any closer than this right here. 2.37 million votes for each of these men. Ted Cruz is hoping to hang on to his seat and serve the state in the U.S. Senate for a third term, while Democrat Congressman Allred is hoping to unseat him and certainly buck history here in Texas. If he won this particular election, it would cause a pretty big political earthquake here in Texas. He would be the first Democrat to win statewide in 30 years. So history may not be on his side, but we're looking at these results coming in, and they're still early, but we will be monitoring this over the evening.
Yes, Will, and it looks like we have our next guest. Our next guest is Joshua Blank, and he's here to join us via Zoom. Joshua, thanks so much for being here with us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great.
We're hanging in there as these numbers are coming in. We're very glad to see some of the numbers populating for us. But, as we're kind of setting the table with you, I'm wondering what you'll be watching closely as we're moving throughout this evening.
Yeah, I mean, I have sort of a list of things I might be looking at here. I mean, first and foremost, I'm curious to see what the overall turnout is. Early voting in Texas was really pretty astronomical this time. I mean, it's following a trend we've been seeing over a number of election cycles now where voters are tending to take the early voting option and run with it. And so we're seeing a lot of that. So we're going to see a very high turnout election here in terms of the number of voters. We'll see whether the rates compare to sort of some of these previous elections. So I'll be looking at that. Obviously, I'm curious about the margins at the top of the ticket, both, how Trump and Cruz do, who ends up doing better than whom, I think is an interesting question for me. I'm really interested to see how some of the trends play out in terms of voting that we've been watching sort of in the major metropolitan areas. In particular, I'm curious to see what the Republican vote totals look like. Democrats have really been able to increase their base vote over the last number of election cycles. And one of the questions is whether or not Republicans can find more voters in the state, given that they rely so much on older rural voters and more conservative voters. And the question is, are there more of them out there? So that's a big question. And then I think when it's all said and done, I'm really interested in looking at the exit polling and seeing, whether some of these stories we've been following about subgroups of voters really panned out when push comes to shove and people end up in the voting booth. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at, just a couple little things.
Quite the laundry list there, yeah.
So we've been covering the Senate race so far throughout this stream, and I wanted to ask you, what would it mean for Texas if we have an Allred win?
It would be a shockwave, to be quite honest. I don't think Republicans or Democrats would really be ready for it. To be quite frank, I think Democrats might find themselves in a little bit of a dog catches car situation. They would have this newfound platform in Texas, and they'd have to figure out real quick how they're going to use it, depending especially on the outcome of the other races. Additionally, I don't think Republicans are necessarily expecting an Allred win, and I don't think we should necessarily be expecting this to happen. It'd be a huge upset. But I think if it happened, there'd be a lot of finger pointing within the Republican Party here in Texas that's already really become kind of known for finger pointing at each other. And so it'd be really interesting to see in the aftermath of that race, how Republicans with where they fell short, whether they solely blame Cruz, whether they blame each other, whether they're looking at, the national turnout operation of the RNC and whether it fell short. But ultimately, given the resources that Republicans have in Texas here, given the issue environment here, given the advantage they have in voters, if Cruz were to lose, it would be nothing short of an epic failure on their part.
Yeah, it would be incredibly shocking given the history of this races across the state. I mean, a Democrat has not won statewide in 3 decades, so it would be a notable shift for sure. Focusing on the presidential contest, too, we obviously seen only early numbers coming in so far, with former President Trump leading slightly over Vice President Kamala Harris. What will that tell you about the split in the vote once we get through all these votes that are counted? Depending on how close that is, what will that tell you?
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to be real cautious about overinterpreting early results. These are not random. We're not taking a random sample of precincts from the state and seeing, how the voters are falling. It just has to do with who's reporting their data more quickly to the Secretary of State and how quickly that information is getting uploaded to these various sources. And so, what we see right now, and this is true, and I should just say, whatever you're watching, whether you're watching Texas, the presidential race, the Senate race, whether you're watching national coverage, and you're looking at these states, you just have to remember that until we see, most of the vote coming in, and even in that case, you have to ask out, where is the outstanding vote still? We just don't know yet. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the first part. I think the second question when we look at this race for president here in Texas is that whether or not, Trump wins or loses the race, the expectation is that he'll win. But what we are looking at is we're looking at the margins. We're looking at how well he was able to perform here. I mean, ultimately, he won the race by about 9 points in 2016, by about a little less than 6 in 2020. And the question is he going to overperform, his last election here, or is he going to underperform that? And not only that, in terms of the percentages, but how many votes is he going to end up actually winning this race by here in Texas? Because when you're thinking about, an increasingly competitive Texas, when you're thinking about the tens of millions of dollars that outside groups are pouring in from both sides, even in this election cycle, the continuation of that is to some extent predicated on how close the races keep getting. And so if Texas is only, a Republican state by a couple 100,000 votes, which is still a huge number of votes, it makes Texas a much more interesting place when candidates and campaigns are starting to game out what the next presidential cycle looks like, and even honestly what 2026 looks like.
Yeah, well, Joshua Blank, we appreciate you sticking with us. Has anything jumped out with you so far since we've seen very early results coming in, or are you just kind of in a position to wait and see?
I'm gonna be really boring, and I'm gonna say I want to wait and see. I mean, I see a lot of vote coming in.
I figured that's what you were gonna say. Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. I have to be. If I'm gonna be on TV on election night, I'm gonna have to at least have some standards for myself, and I'm not gonna jump out there and start making all kinds of wild claims. But if nothing else, this is interesting because it's a high turnout election, and one of the things that I think Texas Democrats are going to need to start understanding is that for years they've been saying, if we have high turnout elections, we're going to win these races. Well, we've seen high turnout elections, and what we found so far is that Republicans are finding more voters as well. So the Democratic story is going to have to update if we keep seeing upwards of tens of millions of voters turning out, and we're seeing 60+% turnout, 66% turnout. Then the Democrats are going to have to look at the mirror and ask themselves, where are they falling short then?
Yes. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Josh. It was a pleasure to have you here on KXAN Live with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Good luck with it, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And Will, I think we are going to be hearing from another reporter pretty soon that's going to be joining us as well via Zoom, and that is going to be Sarah. She's going to be with us. Before we get to her, can we go ahead and take a look at what the race results are looking like so far for that race that we were speaking about with Joshua? Let's see the presidential numbers.
Yeah.
We're still at 50.4 and 48.3%.
Yeah, so a pretty narrow divide there between former President Trump and Vice President Harris. Again, this is still early in the vote count, about 48% in at this time. But this is a split that we perhaps could have anticipated based on history. A Republican has won the state every year since 1976, or every presidential year, I should say. 1976 was the only year that a Democrat has won in most recent memory. Jimmy Carter won at that point. So again, we'll just see how these votes split continues to shape up in the coming hours. So again, stay with us. But let's check out what the U.S. Senate race is showing. We have Congressman Colin Allred of Dallas is in the lead at the moment with about 48% of the vote in. Incumbent Senator Ted Cruz is there at 48%. We still have votes coming in, as we've mentioned all along, but this is something that we will be watching closely. Esme, if you want to pop me up to, we have a number of races that our KXAN team here has projected at this time, and I just wanted to give an update for a few of these because many of you might be in our area and are wondering about the results with that. So what we are projecting right now is that Cheryl Cole, who is a state representative from our area, she is the projected winner of Texas House District 46 and is to serve another term in the Texas House of Representatives. In House District 47, we're projecting that Vicki Goodwin is going to win that one. In Texas House District 48, also here in our area, Donna Howard is the projected winner. She's been a longtime member of the Texas House, and it looks like she's going to be sent back there to continue work in January. One race that we've been looking at closely is the Travis County District Attorney's Office, and here at KXAN, we are projecting that the Democrat, Jose Garza, will secure enough votes to win his race. He is going to serve another term after winning his seat back in 2020. So those are a few of the races that we're tracking right now. Another one, if you can pop this up for me, Esme, is Austin City Council District 2. This is in the southeast part of our community. Incumbent Vanessa Fuentes is the projected winner of that race. You can see a pretty wide margin there with much of the vote counted now and the results being shared with us. Again, incumbent Vanessa Fuentes looks like she's going to hang on to her seat there on the Austin City Council dais representing District 2.
And then we have our District 4 race, and it looks like we finally have numbers in this race.
Yeah, finally we're seeing some numbers populate in there. And I told you all, these numbers, sometimes they're a little slow to get into our system, but we have them now in this particular race for District 4. This is a seat that incumbent Cheeto Vela is hoping to hold on to. And right now he's got a pretty comfortable lead over the four others who entered this race representing North and Central Austin.
Yes, and now we jump to that District 6 race with Krista Lane and Mackenzie Kelly.
This is very interesting to look at. So there are three incumbents currently running on City Council. Mackenzie Kelly is one of them. She is perhaps the lone conservative on the City Council dais, and right now, with about 83% of the vote in, Krista Lane, the challenger, is currently sitting in first place, capturing about 52% of the vote right now. So this is something that we'll have to watch as these results keep shaping up throughout the evening. But this is a look at the numbers, and we have much more to follow in the hours and minutes ahead.
Yes. That City Council District 7, it looks like the numbers are in for this as well. And it looks like Mike Siegel is at the top of this race.
Yeah, Mike Siegel is sitting at about almost 42%. That would not be enough, though, to avoid a runoff from happening. In the city of Austin, you have to win 50% of the vote in order to outright win and avoid having to advance to a runoff. And at this time, I mean, this maybe is expected with the number of candidates you're seeing listed here. There are 6 in total running. Mike Siegel there sitting in the first position, so he would more than likely advance to the runoff as we're looking at these votes come in too.
You know what? We're going to hop over to the mayoral race. I know we touched on it a little while ago, but we have our Grace Reader teed up and ready to speak with us. She is there talking about the race. Give me 1 second, Will, before let me troubleshoot something, and I'll have you join us with a few words.
Absolutely. So we want to look at that mayoral contest and let you know that there are 5 candidates running for that position. This is you might be wondering too, didn't we just vote on this already? And the truth is, yes, we did. 2 years ago, this was on our ballots, but the voters here in Austin approved a measure that moved our mayoral elections to presidential years. So we had that election for the victory that Kirk Watson came out with 2 years ago, and then he had to rerun for another term, a full term, as of this year, because as we mentioned, we're moving our mayoral elections to the presidential year. It obviously drives up much more turnout, quite frankly, during these presidential contests. So that was some of the thinking of moving those elections to the presidential years. And Esme, if you wanted to pop up those results again, we'll walk people through what we know, at least at this time. The early results that we're seeing right now is that the incumbent, Kirk Watson, is above that 50% threshold to avoid a runoff. The closest challenger to him is at this time, we should say, is Carmen Yanes Polito, who is the executive director of Go Austin, Vamos Austin. And there in third is the former city council member, Kathy Tovo. Pretty distant numbers compared to what incumbent Mayor Kirk Watson is pulling in at this time. We'll be watching that to see if he can, maintain his lead above that 50% mark so that he can avoid a runoff in the race. 2 years ago, he faced a very close contest with Democrat Celia Israel, and ultimately he took that office and won another stint as Austin's mayor. So this is one that we're watching closely.
Yes, Will. And after this race, we have the Travis County District Attorney, and I believe we got some updates on our communication channel with the team.
Yes, the team here at KXAN is projecting that Democrat Jose Garza is the winner of the Travis County District Attorney's race. He was facing Republican Daniel Betts, who you see there. He is an attorney here in our area, but it looks like the Democrat is going to hold on to that seat that he won 4 years ago and serve yet again as the Travis County District Attorney. A few other races that we wanted to let you all know, bit of breaking news from our team here at KXAN. That is showing that a few other races have been called at this time. If you want to pop me up again, Esme, we'll share that with people. First up is Tanisa Jeffers. We are projecting that she is going to win the Travis County Justice of the Peace Precinct 5 position. Again, Tanisa Jeffers projected to win that seat. We mentioned earlier that in Austin City Council District 2, so that's in southeast Austin, I believe, that is Vanessa Fuentes. She's the incumbent. We are projecting here at KXAN that she will win another term on the City Council dais. Turning to our friends out in Manor, if you're watching us from that community here in our area, Emily Hill is the projected winner of the Council 1 seat. And then finally, for the Austin Community College trustee position, trustee 9, that position, we are projecting that Julianne Nitch is the winner of that race.
Yes, she is the winner so far. We are trying to tee up our guests. We had a little technical difficulties in between, so we got to move around the schedule, but we're working through it. We have a commercial break pretty soon right now, but before we go, I want take a look at one of the races, and let's take a look at the presidential race and see what those numbers are looking like.
Yeah, the latest numbers coming in showing about a 6% difference between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. This is kind of in the range of where we saw the results back in 2020. At that time, we saw former President Trump beat Joe Biden here in the state by about 5.6 percentage points. So that's the difference that we saw back in 2020. Yes. And as these results are coming in here in Texas, the votes are showing a similar divide in that contest.
As far as the Senate race, we have 50.2 with Ted Cruz, and then we have 47.9 with Colin Allred so far.
Yeah, and we've seen those numbers holding on for a while for Colin Allred, putting him in the lead in that particular contest. Again, you see here as more votes are counted, these results are constantly shifting. And right now, incumbent Senator Ted Cruz has moved back into the lead at this race. He is trying to seek his third term in the U.S. Senate, and he would kind of track with history of how these contests have gone here in the state with no Democrat winning statewide in Texas since 30 years ago. So
yes.
Quite a long time.
Well, now we got to cut to our commercial break, but we will be right back with you all shortly.
Feeling and what is first on the agenda with another 4 years in this office?
Well, we're really grateful that this evening our community has decisively reaffirmed their belief that we should have a criminal justice system that treats everyone fairly regardless of age, race, income, and reaffirm their confidence that we're delivering just that. We have an enormous amount of work still ahead of us. Over the last 4 years, we've worked a criminal justice system that treats survivors of sexual assault with dignity and respect. We've worked to reduce violence in our community, and that work will go on. I'm excited of the progress we've made, and there's so much more work ahead of us.
We know these last 4 years have not been without some criticism and some pushback, some of that coming from the state level. As we head into a legislative session in the coming weeks and months, what would you have to say to those critics of yours?
In our democracy, I am responsible to this community here in Travis County. That is my focus, and that will continue to be my focus, to serve the people who live and work in this county every single day. And I'm so incredibly grateful to have their vote of confidence tonight.
Anything that we should expect from the first few days and weeks as you get back to work here in Travis County?
Well, as I said, we have so much more work ahead of us. Over the last 4 years, we've increased the number of sexual assault, but still have so much work to do in that space. We have reduced incidents of gun violence and violence generally, but we have so much more work to do in that space. We have built new programs that begin to reduce our reliance on incarceration and address the root causes of crime. We're just getting started.
DA Jose Garza, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
I'll send it back to you all in the studio.
All right, Avery, Travis, thank you so much. We'll take
Down right here next to me, it is former state representative Larry Gonzalez. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, happy to be here for sure.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming in and taking time. Particularly, we've been focusing on the presidential race, understandably, on the Senate race here in Texas. But because of your experience at the Texas Capitol, I thought you would be a really good person to talk about. We have not really talked too much about some of those state house races, the body that you served in for, I believe it was almost 4 terms?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So tell us about what you're watching in particular, because there are certain contests that we're not breaking down fully in this. Are there certain ones that you're watching? What are you thinking that the shape of the race will be for that body?
You know, I think the big picture is it's a lot of status quo, right? I fully anticipate Speaker Phelan to be Speaker Phelan. There were probably 7 races that people were looking at, but after early voting, numbers have come in. There's probably only 2 that people are still looking at. So a lot of that's going to be the same. But I will tell you, one of the biggest differences are, even with a Speaker Phelan, there are at least, for a variety of reasons, 12 new chairmen. That's not insignificant. When you have 34 standing committees and 12 new chairmen, that's a lot of change. That's a lot of change. And we know right now we have at least 32 freshmen. 32 freshmen out of 150 is a big deal.
A lot of new faces that will come in. So what do you think the impact of that be, that so many new people bring into the Texas House?
I think the worst thing about that kind of mass turnover is loss of institutional knowledge. The best thing about that kind of turnover is loss of institutional knowledge. There's an opportunity, right? There's an opportunity. You have new people with new ideas looking through a different lens, right, that are bringing their own personal talents to the legislature. And what you look for in a freshman is you ask them, hey, listen, welcome to the House. Now, dig in on something you know, right? Bring that with you. So whatever you did prior to being elected in your private life, bring that talent to us, and let's find a place for you to go.
Let's find that avenue
for you to go in. And just jump right in, right? So particularly when you have this many freshmen coming in, you count on the freshmen to come in and have a voice, for sure.
You mentioned what will likely be the most consequential vote that will happen in the Texas House, and that is what's going to happen with the Texas House Speaker's race. So many Republicans have endorsed another candidate at this point. We still don't know where some people fall, but what's your expectation about who will ultimately sit in that position and serve and preside over the House?
My best guess is in a few hours, Speaker Phelan will roll out his votes and he'll be Speaker Phelan again. I fully anticipate that to happen. That usually happens very quickly, and I can tell you from experience, those phone lines are getting lit up right now. I mean, especially when you see the seats that were in question not being questioned anymore. So now there's a lot of phone calls. His chairmen are calling other people, and they're lining up votes right now. So what usually happens is the night of or the very next day, there's a list. And quite frankly, once you get to 76, the list grows pretty quickly because you are the speaker now, right? And
the dominoes are kind of lined up for that person.
So I fully anticipate that to be rolled out here fairly soon, actually.
Okay, well, we will look out for that for sure. I'm also wondering, like, maybe I should look at Twitter to see if he's posted anything about that. So we'll revisit that in just a few moments too. But as we're looking at this, at the makeup of the body, we saw such infighting on the Republican side with Governor Abbott endorsing certain candidates, challenging incumbents who stood against, for instance, his proposal to create school vouchers or education savings accounts, whatever you would like to call it. And then Attorney General Ken Paxton endorsing some candidates, sometimes in contention with what Governor Abbott preferred.
Right.
So when you're out of the body, you're looking at that happening. What's your take about where this could lead in the future?
So what I hope happens is we have a running number of members that we know are in, right? So tomorrow we're going to wake up. And then the first thing we ask the members is, okay, campaigns are over. Mm-hmm. We know who won. Be a gracious winner and come lead. Come help us, right? Because I told the winners, look, there's no reason to hold a grudge. Mm-hmm. You got what you wanted, right? I mean, you ultimately won.
You have a seat at the table.
Correct. You're here. And that's what you wanted. So for the winners, I just don't see any reason for them to hold that kind of animosity. You won, right?
Yeah.
To the ones who lost, thank you for running and participate. Really appreciate that kind of participation and input. But it's time to govern, and that's one of the most important things they're going to hear during orientation later this month from my former colleagues. Is it's time to govern. It's time to lead. It's time to come into the building. Texas has important issues we need to address. Come to the table and let's go fix some things, man.
We've covered a number of issues that we imagine will be at the top of the table and top of the list for the Texas House. What do you anticipate will be kind of up their priority list for some of these lawmakers to tackle?
It's always the budget. The budget. I mean, I was a budget conferee twice. I know the budget very, very well. You can have the best policy intentions, but if there's no money to pay for it, it doesn't matter.
Correct.
It's always about the budget, right? That's the thing that they have to do. The budget, they had quite a surplus last session, and they did spend a lot of that money on some really good things, some one-time money as well. But when they come back, right, you're going to have to look at what available revenue is there. Glenn Hayer, the Texas Comptroller, put out a press today that revenue is down 25% from earlier. So they're already kind of letting you know, in my opinion, hey, it's not going to be what it was last time when it comes to funding a lot of these projects. So it's the budget. It's always the budget, particularly the property tax buy down, right? They bought down $15 billion worth of property taxes last time. And so that's going to have to continue. So it's going to be the budget.
And speaking of revenue for the state, how do you think that's going to impact possibly school choice being pursued again?
That was always the question, right? The question was, okay, so we can afford it now. What does it look like going forward, right? Because you can certainly anticipate, while things are good now, you can afford all kinds of things, not just ESAs, but you can also afford transportation projects and roadway projects and all these wonderful things when you have money. But, when you have to like tighten the purse strings a little bit, then it's a matter of priorities. And then you have to sit down and just prioritize. I was there when we were $27 billion in the hole, and I was there when we had a whole bunch of money. And I will tell you, it's much easier to govern when you're $27 billion in the hole, because the answer is no.
Right.
The answer is we don't have it. The answer is no.
Always. It will
but when you have money, then you really do have to prioritize those things that you think, because look, the budget is a public statement by your elected officials of what we prioritize. What we think is important is right there in that document.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Laid out in black and white.
It's right there because, again, you sit through these committees and you may have, 200 great bills that I can't pay for. And so it doesn't really matter. So it's all about the budget.
Yeah. Well, former State Representative Larry Gonzalez, we appreciate you coming in this evening and making some time for us. It was really good insight, and I'm interested to see if your prediction is correct that Speaker Phelan will roll out the number of lawmakers who are lined up behind him. So we appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Larry.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and we will keep our train moving here with looking at some of the other results. And Esme, tell us about what we're looking at next.
Yes, so next we have Grace Reeder. She is out. She's covering the mayoral race. And we're going to go ahead and tune in and see if she's ready to speak with us. Grace, how are you doing, Grace?
Hey, good. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how your race is going so far. What is the environment around you?
Sure. So I'm at Mayor Kirk Watson's watch party. The first batch of results came out just about 10-20 minutes ago, and people after that 7 o'clock hour hit were really glued to their phones, refreshing those results. The Travis County and Williamson County, because you do have to remember that the city of Austin does touch Williamson County as well, so you've got to watch both of those county results. Are both showing Mayor Kirk Watson in the lead. It's really everyone versus Mayor Kirk Watson at this point. He's the incumbent. He has just south of 52% of the early votes here in Travis County. He's leading Williamson County as well, with Carmen Yanes-Polito and Kathy Tobo, the former Austin City Council member, chasing him. They are closest to him here in Travis County. Obviously, Mayor Kirk Watson has to go past that 50% threshold to not trigger a runoff. If the runoff were to happen, that would go into December. December 14th would be that runoff date. That's a Saturday, and that's what those other candidates are at this point.
Looks like in one of the city council districts, which I know you cover very, very closely, District 7, it could be in runoff potential. And can you talk about the likelihood of that because of the number of candidates that are just running in that race?
Yeah, absolutely. There are 6 candidates who are running in District 7. We've got Brianna Hollis, who's covering those city council races for us, been doing a great job bopping around the city trying to get all of those folks talked to. But that one in particular is likely to have a runoff just because of the number of candidates and because there's not an incumbent. Typically, we see that, especially in those city council races where we don't have party lines, right? We typically don't have Republicans and Democrats. People need to be able to rely on that name recognition. They need to be able to see those signs, in those yard signs. They need to be able to recognize the name when they go to the ballot, because they can vote R or D when they show up to vote.
So sorry
before I know their name, I think they've done a fine enough job, and so they'll vote for them again. Typically, those incumbents tend to do well, but in District 7, there's not an incumbent. That seat has been left vacant. So there are 6 fresh faces, and that is likely to go to a runoff as a result of that.
All right. Well, Grace Reeder, who is our City Hall reporter, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And I know you've got a lot to track for us. We appreciate you taking the time, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. And just want to note that we do have Mayor Kirk Watson, who did just arrive here. They're asking folks to gather, which is why we're standing the way that we are in front of this stage. And so we do hope to have some comments from Mayor Kirk Watson for you relatively shortly. And we would love to be able to bring that to you if he does have some statements to give to us. As I guess that they're waiting for some of those later results to come out. Those do trickle in as the night kind of moves on, but we would love to bring to you some of those remarks from him, so we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you so much for catching that. And we'll look out for some of your notes to see whether he speaks. And we'll be able to bring those remarks to everybody who's watching at home when those happen. So, Grace, thank you again. And Esme, talk to us about what's in store next. I do want to point out, though, that we just got a projection from NBC about Texas in the presidential race, if you want to pull that up for us. NBC is projecting that former President Trump has won the state of Texas. Perhaps that's unsurprising given the history of this state and the direction that it's gone. But right now, NBC News is projecting that former President Trump has won this state of Texas. Additionally, NBC has projected that Trump has won in North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming. As we just said, these are perhaps not the most surprising results, just given their voting history in the past, but wanted to pass along those updates.
Yes, and I wanted to jump back to the Senate race and see how the numbers are looking, because our next guest is our Josh Hinkle, and he is following the Allred race. So let's go ahead and see what these numbers are right now. Well, it looks like 51 and 46.
Yeah, the split right now is about 5 percentage points between Ted Cruz and Colin Allred. The Republican is hoping to hold on to this seat and serve another 6 years in the U.S. Senate, while Democrat Colin Allred, the congressman from the Dallas area, is wanting to flip that. and put it in the blue column, which would be quite the political earthquake if that should happen, given, again, the history of this particular seat and the voting patterns of our state across Texas. So I know that we are, again, waiting on our reporter who is
here with us now. Josh Hinkle, thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about what is going on around you right now?
Sure. I mean, we're having actually a lot of fun here. This is a country western entertainment venue here in Dallas called Longhorn Ballroom. So a lot of music, a lot of food, a lot of drinks over there in the corner. That's kind of where most of the crowd is congregating right now. So I think a lot of people are just waiting to see what's going to happen. We haven't seen anyone come to the podium just yet, but what we have seen is a lot of people checking their phone to see what the results are like so far. But so far, the mood here is, I'd say, cautiously optimistic.
And Josh, you and your reporting about...
Yeah, I mean, he is no stranger to going up against an incumbent Republican. His congressional seat he has now was once held by Pete Sessions, who he beat. Pete later ran for another congressional seat and was able to win that one. But I think that kind of challenge is exactly what Colin Allred was one of the people that kind of rose to the front with this race, and why you've seen the numbers be so close, because he's really taken on that as kind of he's not afraid of going up against that high-profile candidate like Ted Cruz.
Yeah, and this is such an expensive race that has been run there across the state for this U.S. Senate seat. Talk to us about who we're seeing there on the stage at the moment, if you can.
Yeah, this is just one of the people who's been organizing the event here tonight, and they're really just kind of firing up the crowd, getting ready, because Colin Allred has not arrived just yet. But once he gets here, you know, he's definitely going to be speaking to the crowd, and they're ready to hear from him. If you've looked at the results lately, it's been neck and neck kind of all night, so I think that they're really just excited about how this race is going so far and hoping it ends up as a win for them.
Yeah, we're showing the results right now of where they stand across the state as more and more votes are counted. But Josh Hinkle, who is again joining us live from Colin Allred's watch party in Dallas, we appreciate you being with us, and I'm sure we'll get some updates from you here in the near future. But thank you again, Josh.
We're going to celebrate Texas.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Will and Esmeralda.
It's a little noisy at these watch parties, right?
Yeah, people are having a good time. We're hearing the music, we're hearing the cheering. People are in a good mood. They want to be there to support their candidate and show their support.
Yes, they want to see what the numbers are looking like, just like you are wondering as well. So let's go ahead and pull up some races. Will, which race would you like to take a look at first?
All right, let's go and check in on some of these city council positions. So we'll start with District 2.
Yeah.
This is the incumbent, Vanessa Fuentes, and as we are showing you there now, she has that coveted yellow check mark saying she is the projected winner of this seat. She is set to serve another term on the Austin City Council. So we're going to skip to some of these others that might be perhaps a little bit more competitive. In District 4, which is covering North and Central Austin, the incumbent, Chito Vela, is in the lead at this moment with about almost 62% of the vote. This is certainly clearing that bar that he needs to avoid a runoff. So it looks like he is in good shape to perhaps recapture his seat here there in District 4 on the City Council. Let's go to District 6. This is the one that we are really watching closely. So this is the district that covers Northwest Austin and includes some of Williamson County too. Right now, the incumbent, Mackenzie Kelly, is trailing her challenger, Krista Lane. Krista Lane jumped into this race identifying herself as a parent and an advocate for the Round Rock Independent School District. Mackenzie Kelly is the lone conservative on the City Council dais, and right now in this race, with about 83% of the votes in, Krista Lane is ahead of her, capturing about 52.1% of the vote. We will have to watch this one very closely because that is fascinating if the incumbent in this race ultimately does not end up successful in it. So we'll keep watching that one. Let's go to District 7 now. This particular seat has 6 candidates running in it. This is for the position that is going to be left vacant after incumbent Leslie Poole served 2 consecutive terms. Not too much change in the numbers that we've seen from earlier this evening. Right now, Mike Siegel, who is one of the better funded candidates in this particular race, is currently in the lead with about almost 42% of the vote. That's certainly not enough to avoid a runoff. But in a race where there are 6 candidates, that might be more understandable. Gary Bledsoe there is the closest challenger to him with almost 19% of the vote. Finally, another position that's going to be left open on the city council is in District 10, which covers West Austin. Allison Alter is going to be leaving her seat. And we're seeing right now that this is a very close contest, everybody. Mark Duchin, who right there is just about at 51%, so he's over that 50%. Could be a spot where, we don't see a runoff, but again, very, very close
race.
Yeah. It's cool to see these shape up as these numbers get in and see where the status of the race is. And of course, there's still more votes to be counted.
And Will, we have a few guests lined up next. There are our reporters, and one of them is Brianna Hollis. Can you remind us what race she's covering?
Yeah, she is going all over the city tonight, covering some of these city council races. So who knows exactly where she is in our community at this point, because there are 5 city council seats that are up for votes today. 3 of them are currently have an incumbent, and it looks like 2 are in pretty good shape to hold on to their seats, while that District 6 spot that Mackenzie Kelly holds might be in question, depending on where the rest of the votes from Election Day go. Those will be coming in soon. But yeah, Bree has been hopping around to many different watch parties, I'll say. It's a big task for her and the tall mountain to climb, but she's amazing. So, of course, she would be able to handle it.
Yes, and I believe she is ready to talk with us, but so far I am not seeing her on camera, so I don't want to pop her on the camera just yet. But we will be talking to her soon. And her races, like you mentioned, are the City Council Districts 2, which we already have a projected winner for, District 4, then we have District 6, District 7, District 10. And we just went over these numbers. So, Will, I'm going to toss it to you while I see where Bree is.
Sure, yeah. I also want to let you all know that our team here at KXAN that's watching the results come in very closely. They have a few other projected winners in some other races across our area and the state. So let's start with Texas House District 73. We're projecting that the incumbent, Carrie Isaac, is going to hold on to that seat. Meanwhile, in Texas House District 19, Republican Ellen Troxclair is our projected winner in that spot. She's a former Austin City Council member and now is going to serve, looks like, based on these results, in her 2nd term in the Texas House. And then finally, just some other states that we are monitoring in this presidential contest. Obviously, a lot of you are wondering about that too. In the state of Mississippi, the NBC News team is projecting that former President Trump is going to win there and capture that state's electoral votes. We mentioned a little bit earlier as well that NBC is projecting that former President Trump has won the state of Texas and will receive the 40 electoral college votes that he needs to hopefully, in his campaign's view, to get to that 270 mark. That's the number of electoral college votes that either one of these candidates will need to get in order to be able to become the 47th president of the United States. And so we are getting those results coming in, and I know a lot of you will be watching that very closely. We're expecting, as time goes on, for more polls to close across the country. Perhaps in some of the mountain time zone states, the polls have just closed in the last 14 minutes or so. And then out west on the Pacific Coast, California still has some time to be able to vote out there. And of course, that will be a lot of people and a lot of votes to count. So we will be monitoring those and watching as they come in.
Yes, well, and we have some technical difficulties with Bree's camera. We
Oh, okay.
see her, but we can hear her.
Oh, no.
So we're going to wait off until we have our team fix those issues. Let's go ahead and look at another race right now. Which race did you want to check in on?
Let's go to some of these propositions. So we haven't really looked at that this much, but so far, at least this evening. So let's start with the Austin Independent School District's Proposition A. Our education reporter, Kelly Wiley, is following this pretty closely this evening, and she'll be joining us hopefully a little bit later in our live stream, so stay tuned for that. But right now we're showing that the Austin ISD Proposition A, which is a tax rate increase, this would be currently people are in support of it. About almost 60% of the vote is voting for this measure, while about 41% is against it. If you're wondering about what's in this measure, it's a voter-authorized tax rate election, and the district is hoping that it will help reduce its multi-million-dollar deficit going into the next school year. So according to Austin ISD, the district has a $119 million deficit. The district estimates that if voters approve this tax rate increase this evening, that shortfall would be reduced to about $78 million before any budget cuts would need to take effect. The district would also stand to raise about $171 million through this election, but we should point out that about $130 million would go back to the state in what's known as recapture and then redistributed to other school districts throughout Texas. The district would then be left with about $44 million to apply toward its deficit, those numbers we just highlighted a few moments ago. Let's go to Travis County Proposition A.
And after we look at this proposition, Will, we have our reporter, Avery Travis, ready and on stick.
Just really quickly, Travis County Proposition A is about affordable child care options. The Travis County Commissioners Court put this on the ballot, and right now about 60% of the vote is in, showing that they support that measure. So we'll check in with those numbers here in just a moment. But Esme, I know we're going to bring Avery back into this, who is out focusing on the Travis County District Attorney's race, and so we're happy to have her in this conversation too. Avery, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for having me. You know, there are a lot of supporters of Proposition A that you just mentioned there. We're here at the Driscoll, which is the headquarters for the Travis County Democratic Party. We're expecting to see a lineup of party leaders all the way from the federal down to the local level. But as you mentioned, Will, we've been following the Travis County District Attorney's race. Jose Garza, the incumbent district attorney, coming in with about 69% of that vote and claiming victory here. He says that he is ready to get started with another 4 years in office. He campaigned here again this year on some of the same progressive ideas that he that won him the office back in 2020. He wants to continue some of the prevention and diversion programs. He also says he wants to continue to have a focus on victims, particularly in cases of sexual assault. You know, we just spoke with him a few minutes after the race was called, and we asked him about some of the criticism that he's faced about, folks claiming he's not tough enough on crime. We know there was even an effort to remove him from office under a state law that allows for the removal of elected prosecutors for office misconduct. We asked him about some of those challenges and pushback that he's seen over the last 4 years, and he says he's focused on serving Travis County residents. He's very hyper-local focused, and he wants to continue to push forward the agenda that he says they've clearly voted on tonight, his agenda of reforming the criminal justice system with some of those programs I just mentioned. So that's a bit of what we heard from him, really just moments after the race was called a few minutes ago.
And Avery, you're there at the Travis County Democrats Watch Party. What's the mood been like, in addition to what's been happening with the district attorney's race?
You know, the mood here, Will, is honestly hopeful. I think we keep hearing cheers from the room behind me, where they've got different media on the screens. They're watching as results roll in from other parts of the country. We talked to the chair of the party here, and she says, of course, with Travis County being a historically blue county, they really focused a lot of their outreach on other parts of the state where there are potentially chances to try and flip House seats blue. They say here that is their goal. We've been been following as each of those local results come in. It's quite a star-studded event here with leaders from across Travis County and the Austin area, shaking hands and talking to their supporters. It's packed. If you can see this room behind me, it is really overflowing as people try to watch those results. Will and Esme, honestly, the main focus still being on that presidential race.
Well, Avery Travis, our wonderful anchor here at KXAN, we appreciate you being with us and for giving these updates and telling us a little bit more about what Jose Garza would like to do with his second term in office. We appreciate you being with us again.
Thank you both so much for having me.
Yeah, and Esme, I know we were trying to get Brianna Hollis into the
Yes.
conversation, so hoping maybe we can bring her back in and talk a little bit more about her race. We were mentioning that she's been following closely all the city council races across the city this evening. There are 5 open spots that are up for election. We have now projected that District 2, the incumbent, Vanessa Fuentes, will hold on to that seat. We project that she is going to win that one. In addition, our team at KXAN has been tracking some of the other races that have been called, not only in Texas, but across the country. In Mississippi, NBC is projecting that former President Trump has won that state, as well as Louisiana. Perhaps not.
How is your race looking like so far?
Hello. So sorry about those technical difficulties earlier.
No worries.
Just to start off, to let everybody know, the reason I am in a car is because I am covering all of the city council races, and they're kind of spanning all across town. So right now I am actually just right outside. We just pulled up to the watch party for the current District 7 front runner, Mike Siegel. So let's talk about this race first. So this is a really important number when it comes to talking about making sure you can see it there, it's 50%, talking about this District 7 race. That's because it is a packed field. So the candidates need to at least get 50% of the vote to actually win. So this is likely going to go into a runoff. This is one of the races where there was no incumbent involved. So it was really kind of a free-for-all, and this is something we anticipated. But at this moment, Mike Siegel, the watch party that we're at, he is currently holding about 42% of the vote. Again, that's with 83% reporting. So unlikely he'll hit that 50% mark. So again, anticipating this one going into a runoff right now. As for the other district that didn't have an incumbent, District 10, that one is very close. We have Mark Dushin and Ashika Gangley in that race, about almost 50-50 there. Again, that's another race where there wasn't an incumbent. Now, if we want to talk about the races that did have incumbents running, we have another very close one in District 6. We have Councilmember Mackenzie Kelly against challenger Krista Lane. That one is also very close, with Krista Lane at 52% and Kelly, the incumbent, at about 48%. I did get a chance to speak with both of them earlier today. Krista Lane, the challenger, was talking about how she really wanted to focus on public safety and road conditions in her term, and Councilmember Kelly was talking about how proud she was of the term she served in terms of public safety. She said that's been a really big issue in District 6 because it's the furthest away from an Austin police subsection, basically. So she created a public safety engagement center to kind of help out with that. And she did mention, I did ask her, this was right before early results came in, but she had said if she weren't to win this election, she said it would be absolutely crushing, and she's poured her heart and soul into this role, but understands at the end of the day that if she's not the right fit for the community, she wants to have the voters have somebody who they believe represents them. She did also bring up this point multiple times, talking about how having different viewpoints on certain topics is good for government. She is known to be the most conservative member of the current Austin City Council, so she just talked about how that can help really foster a lot of productive conversations throughout. The other two districts, Districts 4 and District 2, the other races with incumbents, we've already called the race for District 2, Southeast Austin, for Vanessa Fuentes. She had a commanding win there, 86% to 14% in her race. Chito Vela in District 4, pretty commanding lead as well. Haven't called that just yet, but he is at
about 62% of the race right now. And he was talking about, I got the chance to speak with him earlier as well. He was talking about how a lot of his first term really focused on citywide issues, and he's really looking forward in a second term to focusing a little bit more on District 4.
Well, thank you so much, Brianna. We're so grateful that you're out and covering all these races and giving us all this information to us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate Bree making so many stops throughout the evening and talking to so many different candidates. There is a lot to track, and she's the best person to do that. So good job, Bree, and we thank you for joining us too. Okay, everybody, we are at about 8:25 this evening. The polls have been closed for, almost an hour and a half at this point here in Texas, and we're getting some more and more of those results in. If you're just joining us, we wanted to point out that NBC News has projected that former President Trump has won the state of Texas. That falls in line with what we've seen with history here in the state. A Democrat has not won the Electoral College votes from Texas since 1976, when Jimmy Carter did that. That's 48 years ago, pretty long time. So again, the projected winner here in Texas is Donald Trump. As we are getting ready for other races throughout our area, I know that we are wanting to check in with some of our other reporters throughout the area. If we want to show really quickly, though, the Senate contest, Esme, if you don't mind pulling that up.
Yes, we're just waiting on Kelly. She's going to call us here shortly. I'll let you know when she's ready and up to talk to.
Okay, great. And who we're talking about is our investigative reporter, Kelly Wiley. She really focuses on educational issues. And tonight she's working on reports about the Austin ISD Proposition A, which is a tax rate increase. And I was looking at her Twitter page just a few moments ago, and the superintendent from Austin ISD, Ms. Tia Segura, they are saying that they believe that they have enough votes to win this. And as you look right here at the results that we have coming in, about 58.9% say they are supporting this particular measure, which the district would like to use to help bring down some of its budget deficit.
Yes, so she will be speaking to us about this race. We're still trying to get her ready and teed up to speak with us. In the meantime, let's go ahead and look at that Senate race. I know you asked to pull it up, but we kind of skimmed through it.
Yeah, let's pull that up really quickly again. What we're showing right here is that incumbent Senator Ted Cruz, the Republican, is currently in the lead over Democratic Congressman Colin Allred of Dallas. The vote is about, that's about almost 7% between the two, about 6% too. So this is tracking with what a lot of the polls showed for this particular race. And it tracks with our history here in the state with a Republican winning statewide in Texas.
Yes, and Kelly is still just a few minutes away from her time to join us, but we'll be waiting for her on standby. In the meantime, let's look at that race for some of these propositions. What is one proposition you would like to touch on right now?
Yeah, we haven't checked in on the Hays County Proposition A, if we want to bring that up. So we've been focusing on a lot of the Travis County and Austin races, but down south of our area in Hays County, the Commissioner's Court wanting to pass this road bond to fund some improvement projects in the area, which has seen a lot of growth. And what we're showing is that about at this time, as more and more votes are being counted, the support for it stands at about 55%, almost 45% against it right now. Again, this is Hays County Proposition A to fund some road bonds there.
Yes, we also have that Hays County Sheriff race.
Yes.
We have Anthony Hippolito Jr. and Alex Villalobos. We have Anthony with 52.7 in the lead, and it looks like this is going to be somewhat of a close race.
Yeah, that Hays County is going to have a new sheriff. One of these two men will take that office. At the moment, Anthony Hippolito Jr. is in the lead, and this tracks with some of the results that we showed a little bit earlier in our live stream. The Democrat Alex Villalobos there with about 47%, just behind about almost 5 percentage points behind Anthony Hippolito Jr., who works right now for the Hays County Sheriff's Office and previously worked for the Austin Police Department. Two races that we have not mentioned, and they have to do with marijuana enforcement. That's Lockhart Proposition A and Bastrop Proposition M. Let's look at those really quickly. We don't have any results just yet for Lockhart Prop A. And in Bastrop, we are still waiting for those numbers to come in too. So don't forget, we have not forgotten about you who live out in those areas and are wondering about what that race looks like. If you want to track some of these results, though, you can head over to our website, KXAN.com, where we have a full breakdown of, I think it's more than 100 races that we're pulling in those results from. So pay attention to that, too, as another alternative if you want to look at some of those results.
Yes, we also have the Travis County Proposition A card, and we do have some votes in this one already on the chart. So we have 60% for and 40% against. And this is a child care fund proposition, correct, Will?
Yeah, this is something that the Travis County Commissioners Court wanted to pass and asked voters to approve it during this election. It's a proposed 2.5-cent property tax rate increase, and it would go toward creating some new affordable child care options in our area. According to county staff, that tax rate increase would generate roughly $75 million for the county in the first year. It will cost the average homeowner roughly $125 extra in the same time period. If this is ultimately passed, and it looks like it's certainly on its way to do that, the money would go toward the following. It would create roughly 1,900 child care slots for babies and toddlers of low-income households. It would create nearly 3,900 after-school and summer school slots for elementary-age students. Create some incentives for businesses to create or expand childcare options for employees. As we've been showing you those results, it looks like a pretty wide margin at the moment in favor of Travis County Proposition A.
And it looks like we have one reporter ready to speak with us, and this is Barrett. Will, can you tell us who this is joining us?
Yeah, Barrett
our
Tryon
educators,
is,
which are
watching
the
election parties there in Williamson County. Barrett, I know that you've been tracking the sheriff's race there. We have yet to mention that in our coverage at the moment. So catch us up. Where are you?
So right now I am with Democrats of the Democratic Watch Party here in just west of Round Rock, and they're watching returns come in. And I want to say, one of the big things besides the sheriff race, we'll talk about that in a moment, is Round Rock ISD with that nearly $1 billion bond. So as we talked about, now they could pass all of it, they could pass it in parts because it was 4 propositions. Right now, Prop A, B, and C have passed. The ones that has not is that $65.5 million to upgrade the athletic facilities, and that would add things like artificial turf, scoreboards, and then it would also build a new standalone multi-purpose facility. So as of right now, voters have not approved that, but A, B, and C have. So that's something, when you talk about it, $1 billion that is a lot of money. And so ultimately, that's what voters have decided so far. I was with Republicans a little bit ago. There was good energy in the room. Matthew Lindeman is there. He is running for sheriff. He was the constable for Precinct 3, running against Sheriff Mike Gleason. Now, you might remember Mike Gleason beat then Sheriff Robert Chody, and Gleason was actually the first Democrat to be sheriff in Williamson County for more than 30 years. So it was a big deal when he was elected sheriff. But early numbers right now show that Lindeman is in the lead. Talked to Lindeman a little bit ago. He was with his grandson and was really excited how the night was unfolding. Of course, things could still change, but right now, Lindeman is in the lead. He is a Republican. So one thing he talked about, and we talked about extensively, is, Mike Gleason, Sheriff Mike Gleason, has really been involved with fentanyl and really hammering down on that. And I asked Lindeman if that is something that he would continue. He said he would take a little bit more of a proactive approach. He says that Sheriff Gleason is a little reactive to how it works there. He said he would like to start with educating in schools and making sure parents know so that kids don't even get access to that stuff. Because a lot of it, as you know, it's something that it looks like any other pill and it's laced with it. And unfortunately, you don't know until you have it. So it takes a very small amount to actually kill you. So that's a priority that he says he wants to continue, but just kind of work more on the education route. So as of right now, Lynn's been winning those the 4 props for Round Rock Independent School District also passing, but still early night. Good energy here too at this Mexican restaurant that we're at. The Republicans are right over by the Dell baseball fields. So we'll be hopping back and forth all night to kind of get a sense of what's going on. But Republicans were happy when I talked to them a little bit earlier about how the night was going so far.
All right. Well, very interesting. Barrett, I know you've been hopping around just like some of our other reporters, tracking multiple races. So we appreciate you not only updating us about the Round Rock ISD bonds, but also that Williamson County Sheriff's race. Thank you, and good luck the rest of the night. We appreciate it.
All right. Keep up the great work, guys. Talk to you later.
All right. Thanks again. Yeah, we have been trekking with so many of our reporters. They are covering
we have
so many races.
and I have so many buttons for all the reporters, so it's kind of hectic out here. But our next reporter is Sam Stark. Will, can you kind of fill us in on what Sam is covering?
Is covering a number of races in Hays County, and that includes the sheriff's race that we've been discussing and showing you some results with repeatedly during the last 2 hours almost. And he's also been tracking that Hays County road bond vote. The county leaders there would like to use that funding to be able to pay for some improvements throughout the area. So that's really what he's been focusing on. And we really want to drill down to all of you at home that we are focusing on some of these very local races in certain counties. And Sam Stark is our reporter who's been doing that in Hays County.
Yes, and it looks like we're still waiting for him, so let's go ahead and look at some of our election cards, our handy-dandy election cards. We've got the presidential race, which has already been called here in Texas. We have the Senate race that is still 52 to 45%.
Yeah, it has still not been called by our team here or by NBC News, so we're watching that closely to see whether or not that will happen relatively soon.
And Will, it looks like we have a projection from NBC. Can you kind of fill us in what that projection is?
Yeah, a few things have come in. A couple more states are coming in projected to award their electoral votes to Vice President Kamala Harris. That includes Rhode Island and New York, the state up there in the northeast part of our country. As we mentioned earlier, some of the Republican strongholds have been projected for Trump, like Mississippi and Louisiana. So those are just some of the latest updates we have.
Yes, and it looks like we have our reporter Sam here with us finally. Thanks for joining us, Sam. we got a little bit of a slow connection here.
You might see if you can maybe reconnect.
Looking now.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Sam, I know that you're joining us on Zoom. Connection might be a little tough, but we appreciate you joining us. You're in Hays County. Talk about the races that you've been tracking. Maybe start with the sheriff's race there.
Sure. So just like Art was saying, we also had a sheriff's race in Hays County.
I think that we lost him. That is okay.
Yeah, this is what happens. So again, we have reporters fanned out everywhere throughout Central Texas and trying to jump on not only with some of our live capabilities, those little backpack units that we can attach to our cameras and provide a really high quality image. And we also have some who are joining by Zoom, and that of course relies on cell phone service. And as you saw with Sam there, it dropped out just a little bit, but you know, he's been tracking some of those races in
it looks like
Hays
he's
County.
Back. Let's see if this works again. One more try. Let me pull him up. Sam, are you there?
That looks so much better.
You guys. And you can imagine there's not a ton of there hasn't been. I
Well, it looks like we're still dealing with some of those
technical
connection issues. So, Sam, we'll
come back to you.
Yeah, we'll try to come back to you in just a few moments if you want to bring down his mic too and see if we can maybe reconnect some of those things. I will let you know, too, a little bit behind the scenes. Esme over here, she's incredible. She has been controlling all of this with just a few push of a buttons, running our own audio board and doing this and looking amazing all at the same time and smiling for us. And it's been so cool to see that. And so I hope that you all know that that's what's all going on behind the scenes. She is helping to organize that along with our producer, Sam, over there.
Yes, thank you, Will.
Because there's a lot to track.
This is a lot, and we've got votes and numbers coming in all as we're trying to do all of this and trying to update you all with them. Let's go ahead and jump to those election cards that I was just talking about. Our Senate race. Here we go. We were just on this one. It's 52% to 45%. Right now, we do not have a projected winner here. As far as this race, our mayoral race, we also don't have a projected winner just yet.
Yeah. And I was going to tell you, if you wanted to pop me up really quickly again, we have some more projections from both our KXAN team as well as NBC. So starting here locally, if you live in Bastrop, right now the projections are that propositions B, C, D, E, F, H, J, and K have all been approved by the voters there. So again, that's propositions B, C, D, E, F, H, J, and K. On the presidential front, we have some more races being called across the country for Vice President Harris. NBC is projecting that she has won in New York as well as Illinois. Those are the latest updates that we have from our team.
Yes, and it looks like we have our reporter Kelly Wiley ready to speak with us. Kelly, thanks so much for joining us. Can you update us on your race?
Right, yes. Here, you missed a lot of excitement, actually. The superintendent just got off the phone, turned around, and started cheering with the rest of the Austin ISD leaders, including some. While not the end of the road for them, this means $41 million in additional revenue every single year, but it also means $130 million, the majority of the revenue from that tax rate increase is going to the state. And it also means that they still have to make some really difficult decisions around budget cuts. They've told Austin ISD parents, they've told voters that they still plan to cut at least $90 million additionally to be able to deal with this deficit, this $119 million deficit that they've been dealing with. So this is a victory for them. This is bringing relief to them, but there's still a long road ahead of decisions that they'll have to make.
And Kelly, I know you've been covering that very closely, Austin ISD Proposition A. With the results the way they are, there's pretty lopsided support. Are district leaders reading much into that divide?
Yes, I mean, we've heard a lot of trustees talking about their belief in the Austin community. They believed all along. We heard from Trustee Singh, Board President Singh, say she really had faith in Austin citizens, that they would come through for the district, that they would have faith in the district to make these additional cuts down the road. Trustee Singh told me that she was kind of, crossing her fingers throughout the day, but that she really, when she thinks about it, she said she wasn't very surprised that the Austin community came through or is seemingly coming through to give them this relief as they try to work through this financial issue.
Well, investigative reporter Kelly Wiley, we appreciate you again joining us here this evening and giving us an update on what looks like to be a victorious night for the district leaders there with Austin ISD Proposition A with a pretty wide margin of support. Kelly, thank you again.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
And while we are still waiting for our connection to be better with our reporter, Sam Stark, let's go ahead and look at some of these numbers again. Let's pull them up. Which race do you want to see right now?
Let's go to the Austin mayoral race because we haven't checked in on that one in a little bit of time. We have not seen much change just yet in the support that these 5 candidates have gotten. Incumbent Mayor Kirk Watson currently sitting there at almost 52%. He is safe at this time from avoiding a runoff. and with the closest competitor, Carmen Yanes Pulido, pulling in almost 19% of the vote. So that was the update about the Austin mayoral race.
And now we have our reporter, Sam Stark, ready to chat with us. Sam, we're glad you finally have some good connection to chat with us.
Looks so much better.
We'll see if third time is the charm this go around.
It seems like it is. So you're down there in Hays County tracking some of these races. Let's start with the sheriff's race, where things stand at this point.
Sheriff's race in Hays County was between Republican Anthony Hippolito and Democrat Alex Villalobos. Both came to the ticket with a wealth of law enforcement experience. Hippolito actually was with APD for over 25 years, and Alex Villalobos, he was with the Texas State University Police Department for around 11 years, but then had some experience within the Hays County government. He worked as the chief of staff for a few years, but it's looking to be tilting towards Republican Anthony Hippolito. I have those results pulled up right now, with 84% reporting. 52.71% has gone towards Republican Anthony Hippolito. I'm actually out in Driftwood right now, which is probably why we had the spotty connection earlier. I'm here at his watch party, which I will go in after this call to see how he's feeling about the results. Now, you also said another big race that we were watching is the bond election that was Proposition A in Hays County. So here, Hays County voters were choosing to either approve or deny nearly $450 million transportation bond package. So county officials said that was necessary to try to keep up with the growth in Hays County. As we know, Hays County consistently ranks as one of the fastest growing counties in the state and in the country. So they said that this bond package was necessary to keep up with that growth, as well as improve road safety across the county. And then in that bond package are 30 projects. So it's looking like 55% of voters chose to vote for the bond package, and then 45% voted against it. Another interesting tidbit about this is 4 property owners actually filed a lawsuit against the Hays County Commissioner's Court towards the end of October, saying that the Hays County Commissioner's Court hatched the plan for the proposition without enough public input, and that many of the projects within the proposition are actually over environmentally sensitive zones, and that it would negatively impact the environment. So now that it looks like the voters have approved this proposition, it'll be interesting to see what comes of that lawsuit.
Yeah, we appreciate you, Sam Stark, for sticking with us and sharing that update about these two big important races in Hays County. And we thank you again for being with us. Thanks so much.
Not a problem at all. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. It looked like we lost connection there at the end. We had a little tiny screen of him, but that worked. I'm glad we got to bring him back up and speak with him.
Yeah.
Let's jump back to these election cards before we line up our next guest. Will, who do you want to look at next?
Let's see. I would like to go to some of these city council races here in Austin. Let's not do District 2 because we've already called that one. Let's go to District 4. We have yet to officially project a winner for that race, though it seems incumbent Chito Vela is well ahead of his 4 other challengers in this seat, representing North and Central Austin. In District 6, this is a really close race. If we want to go to that one again really quickly, this is in Northwest Austin. We've not seen the vote totals change all that much just yet, but right now the incumbent, Mackenzie Kelly, looks like she is behind her challenger, Krista Lane. Mackenzie Kelly is hoping to get another term on the Austin City Council dais representing District 6, but right now Krista Lane is ahead in that vote count. Of course, there are still, it looks like, more votes to be counted, so we'll again keep track of those numbers. In District 7, where there are 6 candidates running at the moment.
I'm sorry, Will. I'm going to cut you really quick here. We're going to have a commercial break to jump to, and we will be right back.
MC1.
because you don't pay